of the time we can't solve the problems that we have of our own. It's really, it's a tough gig, really, you know, living in this society and this world, and particularly with what's gone on over the last couple of years and all the mandating and all the can I say bullying that has gone on, because wow, it's been interesting, and there's been lots and lots of issues with families and friends and communities broken, devastated.
It's a really great example of not listening, isn't it? There's lots of shouting and lots of I'm right and you're wrong, and not many people stopping long enough to go, oh, explain to me why you think that way, instead of rolling out the same old tired tropes that people do. Like, I've got a really good friend who has a totally different perspective to me on what's happened in the last 2 years. Like, we chalk and cheese. Well, some of the things that she says, I go, oh, yeah, I think that too. But we're awesome friends, because she'll share her opinion. I'll listen. She'll go, you don't agree with me, do you? And I go, how do you know? She goes, because you've gone quiet. And it's like, because I'm respecting the fact that you have been able to express your opinion, and that I'm not going to argue with you, because I don't see the point in arguing with you. And it's
safe. She feels safe to be able to do that. How fabulous is that you have a friend who you have different opinions, and I think we all have different opinions, and we're allowed our opinion. But someone else, if you're expressing that, doesn't have to agree with you, doesn't have to disagree with you, but you should be able to express your opinion without being judged to the nth degree.
Yeah, because judgment means, I think, that you're not listening. You know, the words are coming out and you're just only picking up a couple that reinforce your position on a certain topic, and then we jump on it. Like, I find it, look, I even find it when I write awards for people. You know, you read the question to them and they only hear one or two words, and they start telling you, oh, well, back in 2018, and you're like, going, no, listen to the question. What did you do in 2021? They don't care about 2018. So we're not listening to what people say deeply enough. Like, we're hearing it's bombarding us. And that's, I guess, the dangers of social media, is it's really hard to pick up tone and context from posting, you know, a few sentences, which is why if you ever read any of my posts, they go on for ages, because I have to like work through the whole thought process and take into account everybody's maybe potential slant on what I'm saying. So it's kind of like, okay, have I covered everything here? Yes, War and Peace is done.
But it is interesting, you know, working through the process and having a conversation with someone and really listening to them, and the process of how you respond, not react. And a lot of time there can be more reaction than response.
Yes. Yeah. Look, does that come back to, we all just want to be heard? We just, you know, there's so many ways that we can communicate with each other now. And I guess that's the danger, is like back in the day where you wrote letters, you know, you saved up your news for the month and you wrote your, you know, if you got a letter from me, it was very long, filled with pictures and lots of interesting sidetracks, and you would have to sit and read it. You know, get your cup of tea or your drink and you'd sit and read it. Now, you know, I've got my phone in front of me, I've got my computer screens, I've got another computer screen, you know, so I've got another device. There's just so many ways that people are trying to communicate with me, and it's really hard to hear them all because it's overwhelming and confounding sometimes, trying to keep up with what everybody's doing. So maybe we should go back to writing letters to each other.
You know, I think the kids of today don't know how to write letters. They don't know how to write, you know, write as in write, because they use their computers all the time. They're doing all these sorts of things all the time. And it's like, you know, someone could be sitting over there and they're sending them a message instead of getting up and going over and having that conversation, or instead of phoning them, they're messaging them. So the conversation these days is lacking. It's more written. It's not spoken as it used to be once upon a time. How do you go about changing that to bring it back to where people have that conversation that's meaningful, that people respect? Yes, they have an opinion, you have an opinion, and you respect each other's opinion and not make that judgment on them. How do you do that?
I don't know. I think if I had a magic wand for that, I wouldn't be sitting in Coomera, Queensland. I'd be, I don't know, have a helicopter and be flying somewhere.
Come collect me.
Yeah,
and we
I'll
go
come
flying
and collect
together.
you and my dog that's just started barking.
That's all right.
He didn't get the memo when I said, "You be quiet." I almost feel, Faye, that the horse has bolted, that we've lost that opportunity because we've now got, like my kids aren't millennials, they're Gen
Why?
Y, no, X, no, Gen. I get so many alphabet.
I don't know what I am and I don't care.
No, they're like 2,000 children. They've grown up with all of these devices, and the only way I think we can stop it and turn it around is if straight away every parent with a young child stops handing them an iPad, stops, sticking them in front of YouTube, and they don't get a phone until they're 17, and they have to actually learn how to write. Like my son still says my hand hurts when I'm writing, and I'm like, oh, you poor precious. Like, you just need to do more of it. Oh, here he walks in right now, he's soaked. He's literally a dripping mess.
Because it's raining so much up there.
Yeah, that's right. He's going to come and show everybody how wet he is.
You're on Facebook.
That's funny. So I think all we can do is within our own families have a culture of conversation. Up until the kids were in the middle teens, we ate dinner every night together, and you weren't allowed to have your phone, and you got into trouble if you had your phone. And even though Quinn would go, oh, you guys are really boring, we would still sit there and we'd talk. And I find as the boys get older, they tend to seek us out more to have conversations because they can't have them with their peers, because their peers think they're weird, because they want to talk about feelings and insights and the environment and politics. So that's come from us, even though, yes, I did stick them in front of TV. And I will say that I did disconnect the antenna to the TV when they're probably about 5 and 8, 9, because I got sick of them going, Mum, I want this latest toy. And it's like, oh, they're watching these ads directed straight at them. That's it. It's over. So I introduced them to Star Trek, Stargate, and Doctor Who. So they're all mad sci-fi fans now.
I've got some friends who are mad sci-fi fans, so that ain't a bad thing.
It's a good thing. Live long and prosper, people. So I think for us to move forward, that we can only do it individually, because, schools are in enough strife with their archaic way of teaching, that they've not learned anything from the past 50 years. They're continuing to teach our kids how they taught you and I at school, albeit with different, we were
devices,
using pens,
yep.
And they're now using iPads and keyboards.
Yeah,
but they're still learning the same stuff. They're not really teaching them to critically think. They're just teaching them to regurgitate.
Yeah, and it's, don't even get me started there. That's just an issue on its own. But, when you go walking or you're driving and you're looking at people walking across the road or they're walking up the path. I went and sat in a park a week or so ago, and I just sat there. I thought, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch people, because people watching is a fascinating thing to do. Very few did I see without a phone in their hand, walking, looking at it, texting, looking at it, speaking on it. Very few people did I see without a phone in their hand, older or young. And it was just like, Wow. Is that what society's like now? When you're
Yeah.
walking up the street and there's couples and they've both got phones in their hand and they're both using them.
Or you go out to dinner
Oh,
and you watch, like my husband and I will take our phones, but we'll turn them upside down and push them off or keep them in our bags or our pockets. And you'll be looking around at couples and you're like going, they're not even talking to each other. Like we may be discussing the Star Trek episode that we've watched 700 times, but we always sit and talk when we're eating, and we're losing that.
it's lost.
I went to a concert on the weekend, and it was amazing how many people stood there and filmed the singers. I mean, like you'll see me, I do like 30-second grabs, but people who'd stand there and film a whole song or the whole thing, and it's like, why aren't you watching? Like,
Yes.
watch it, listen, because when you're holding your phone, it's hard to split your focus because you're like, oh, make sure I don't drop it.
And I've got it right, and I've got the whole thing in focus, and I can see them, and all the rest of it. It's interesting, isn't it, to have to realize, as you say, it's kind of lost, isn't it?
Yep.
Do you reckon it'll ever turn around? We'll ever get it back? I think it's the responsibility of the parents of today and the children of tomorrow, our next generation, when they've grown up, to educate their children to have that balance.
Look, I'm a big Trekkie, and like I often think of how the Federation came about in Star Trek, and it was after 21st century Earth made all the mistakes that we're making, and someone went, hang on, we need to do better. I'm hoping that there's a leader out there, or leaders, that can overcome the staid way we've got of doing business and life and education, and get us to see something a little differently. I mean, there's lots of people, I'd like to think like me and you and my husband, and people I know who can see the potential for our planet. But it's very difficult when you've got leaders without vision. I use that word leaders very loosely there. People without vision who are meant to be guiding our countries, our world, who are just really focused on making money and helping other people make money.
Or focused on infighting and not really concentrating on what's going on in the real world. I mean, they are, but they're not.
Oh, yeah. Aren't they arguing at the moment about who knows how much a loaf of bread does? Well, I think you kind of missed the point there, guys. Or, there's so many things wrong with politics that I think we probably need a whole 7 shows to talk about that.
Well, yeah, and I don't think I even want to talk about it because
let's move along.
Yeah, it's a bit depressing, really, when you think about it. But you have a story which is really interesting. You've grown up, you became a journalist, you went through, you saw what happens when writing stories in journalism. You see what happens now in journalism. What would you say is the difference between when you started and what goes on now?
Look, I think this also comes back to what we just talked about the younger generation's communication skills. One of the biggest beefs I have with modern journalism is that I'd say 80% of journalists don't want you to call them. It's like,
why not?
Because they're busy.
Doing what?
Meeting deadlines, apparently. Sorry, all you amazing journalists out there who still make phone calls, but a lot of them you can't even get on the phone. They don't even respond to your emails. And whilst I understand that we're all busy, I think that's damaging the creation of stories, because if you're just relying on the written word, albeit can be very powerful, let's say you've got someone whose English skills aren't amazing, but they've got an incredible story, and they're pitching to a journalist their incredible story, and they're not quite hitting the mark, and the journalist, they're going, well, hey, you haven't captured me in the first 25 seconds, not interested. We're losing a lot of that really interesting stuff that you had time and space for back when I was writing as a young journalist, because you'd pick up the phone, you go, you know, hang on, your story intrigues me. Let's have a bit of a chat and get a little bit deeper. And you'd sometimes find the story that they were pitching isn't the real story because you've taken the time to talk to them. And like I find most people, it takes them around, 40, 45 minutes to open up to you once they start getting comfortable. It's not until you get to that 40-minute mark that you go, oh my God, I've got gold. We don't get that anymore in journalism.
No.
You only need to go onto news.com.au site every morning and read the absolute dribble that is coming out of that media stable's house, regurgitated stories from TikTok. I read one, Woolies trolley boy reveals the secrets of how to use your trolley. I'm like, really? And it was from, it's like, Faye, it does my head in. Or, influencer on Instagram claps back for someone telling her she's got a big bum. Like, when did that become a story? That is not a story. Or the story about the people making the stories. So you only need to go and look at all of the stories about the project and the people on the project instead of the stories that the project are meant to be sharing about people who could uplift and change the world because they've been given a platform to share their story. But no, we're just, or a recitation of all the bad things that someone did on maths the night before. That's what we've got. And is it what people want? Or is it what the media think that people want? And I'd have to say it's a bit of both because, the media now really focuses on SEO and on clicks and engagement. If we're clicking through on these stories, and I have to say I'm one of those, but I'm doing it from professional curiosity. Sometimes not. Sometimes the clickbait gets me too, and it's like, I've got to find out why this person can't blink their eye.
On that note, we've